In this video, I'm going to talk about how to discover new melodies over a chord progression when you're writing a song. So, songwriters, have you ever been working on a song and feeling like it sounds a lot like a different song you wrote, or that it's maybe too similar sounding to yourself and you want to find new options, make something unique, make something fresh, break out of old habits? Or maybe just feeling uninspired by what you're writing, you keep hitting a dead end. How do some songs just have the same chord progression for the whole song and still work and still feel exciting and still feel like they take you on a journey and you want to listen to where it's moving within the song? If the chord progression is the same throughout, how is that happening? We're going to talk about one approach to working through all of these issues. And at the same time, this approach is something that we can use to come up with background parts, background vocals, string parts, background horns, orchestrating, thinking of more happening in the music underneath a song. So I should say, this is all talking about writing melodies over a chord progression. So we're starting with the assumption that we have a chord progression, a series of chords that we're trying to write melodically over. This isn't about having more interesting chord options. This is just with it, whatever you're working with the chords, how to think about writing melodies over the top of that. And what I want to talk about here is how to have command over your melodic writing when you're writing over chords, but specifically on the guitar and seeing your options on the fretboard, finding fresh options on the fretboard. This can be really cool because what we just hear in our head or what we naturally kind of sing, this is normal that we'll just play a chord progression and start trying to sing something. We might not naturally hear something that's there in the music, kind of waiting to be written until we kind of pick it out and find theoretically on the fretboard that those options are there, and it can help us expand our sound in a great way. So this can really help to get unstuck in songwriting. Of course, our intuition is so crucial when it comes to songwriting. Just, trying to sing something, trying to write something, and just, do we like it? If yes, cool, we're going to use that and move on. If we don't, keep figuring something out till you like it. In the end, that we have to judge everything with that. So even when I talk about something that's happening in the music, within the chords that are melodic options, it doesn't mean we have to like them or use them. It's just to explore options, kind of get inspired, figure out what we like, and in the end, always use our intuition to decide if it's what we want to express artistically or not. So when we just purely rely on that intuition and we don't think maybe more analytically about what our options are and what we're writing, we can get really good emotional results, but we can also sound the same. We can sound like ourselves too much. We can write the same song over and over again because we have these kind of grooves ingrained for what melodic structures feel good to us when we're just kind of coming up with it. So even if you're a seasoned songwriter, if you're writing on the guitar, if you haven't been thinking on the fretboard for what kind of melodic options are happening within your chords, then this is going to be helpful for you as well. So what's happening within every chord progression is something that I like to call built-in melodies. And we want to discover those built-in melodies because they're there. If you write a chord progression, or if you're using a chord progression, they're in there. So you kind of essentially wrote those built-in melodies also. You just haven't extracted them out yet. This is not an official or technical term, built-in melodies, but I just like to call it that because it really is that way. They're in there. During any chord, there are good notes, and these are the chord tones of the chord. So whatever the notes are that make up the chord, those are the most consonant sounding notes. Those are the notes that really just sit with the chord and sound good on it. These are the notes that in tonal music, in harmonic music, those are the notes that all melodies are kind of dancing around and targeting. They're hitting the notes of the chord tones of the chord, and they're not only hitting those, they're moving all around, but the chord progression is happening and the melody is definitely playing around those, targeting them, because again, those are the good notes. Those are the notes that you can just sit on with that chord and it feels like you're kind of in a home base. So while chords and harmony, same thing here, harmony and chords are kind of meant to support a melody. So you can start with a melody and then figure out, what chord kind of supports it and feels good to harmonize that melody. While that is very much the case and kind of is how Western harmonic music was developed in classical music, you start with the melody and then you harmonize it. Well, you can also create melodies from existing chord progressions. And this is, of course, the most common way that songs are written, especially on the guitar, but definitely in pop music and songwriting on the piano. You start with a chord progression, you start singing something that maybe fits with it, and go from there and write your song. So what I suggest is that we investigate within chords, what's happening musically, what is there available to us. I mean, we're already playing a bunch of notes if we're playing chords on the guitar, so we want to look at the territory that we haven't considered yet when writing melodies and think of it on the fretboard and then try to sing it and then unlock it from there. So let's get into it. Let's say we have a chord progression in C. So I'm going to make a chord progression here and I'll write it out for you on the screen so you can follow along. So I'm playing a C major chord. And then I'm going to play a G chord, G over B. Okay, so I'm not even playing the G. This is very common. I'm going to play an A minor chord. I'm going to play A minor over G. So we just have kind of the low note move down. That's going to walk us down to F. And then I'm going to play F minor. And then I'm going to go back to C. Okay, so let's hear the whole thing. And then I'll go back to G at the end there, okay? So sometimes I'll strum it, sometimes I'll pluck it, and it's about what chords we're using and kind of haven't decided stylistically yet, which is normal while we're writing a song, right? So what are the good notes on every single chord? Well, when we're playing this C chord, and when we're playing any chord, we just have our 6 strings or whatever strings that we're playing as part of that chord. So anything that you're playing is a chord tone. So we have this note, this note, this note, this note, this note. It happens to be the 1, 3, 5, 1, 3 of this chord. And that's all we want to be worrying about for now on the guitar. Really, those exist everywhere. So if I play 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, those are all notes that are in the C chord. So I could use those, right? This note up here, while I'm playing this, but that's a whole other thing that where you have to map out chord tones all over the guitar, which is great, and I talk a lot about that when it comes to improvising on the guitar, but we're just trying to keep it simple and limited here. So we're just thinking of, these are our good notes that we're playing. So as far as the built-in melodies go, I just want you for now to track built-in melodies only on one string. So yes, these built-in melodies actually are crossing strings, and moving all over the place. I'll give an example of that too, but at first just track it along one string because it's easy to do. It's so easy, okay? So here are some of those melodies. If I just take one of the good notes, one of our chord tones on this first chord, and then follow it through the chord progression. This is what you're doing anyway when we're hearing notes or targeting notes and you're singing whatever feels right. I'm just suggesting if you haven't done it yet, think about it on the guitar to give you fresh ideas. So check it out. If I take let's take this open G that is in the C chord, and let's follow it. We're going to stay, whatever notes happen in the chord, we're going to follow along the chord progression. So, da, ba, ba, da, 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 da. Okay, so we just have 3 notes. Wow, that was really cool that we had this. That's that built-in melody that's happening. I mean, the chord itself sounds cool too. We feel something from that, and that's because of that built-in melody. So there's a melody. Well, what if I follow it from this note here, this note that is on the 4th string in the C chord. So this happens to be the 3rd of the chord. We're not even worrying about identifying that yet, but let's follow it along. Da, 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 da. Da 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 da. You can imagine starting to throw some lyrics onto that or something like that. Whatever you want to say. Da 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 da. Ba ba da 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 da. So very different than this other one that we were doing up here. Let's follow another one. chord that you play. So we're only following on the string, one string at a time. So if you are kind of like, what should I write here? How do I make it sound different? Even if you just go in and say, oh, what if I just start on this note? Where does it kind of take me naturally? That's a big way to have a new section sound fresh, or another part of the melody sound fresh. So of course, once you kind of map those out, you could also jump between them. Let's see what we can do here. What if we take that top one that starts there, and then we jump down to this note that's in the F chord. And I'm just being very aware of what I'm singing that's, within the chords on the guitar. So it kind of just at least gives us these jumping off points to play with fresh ideas with. I don't know, that might not seem like the most inspired thing, but you're still going with, wow, do I love that? Is that what I want to say? It's just nice to have something where you can say, well, technically this is in here. Let me see how that goes. It really, I think, speeds up the process of kind of finding something you like, but also is kind of a break from this just like raw guessing that we can often do when we're writing songs. So what if you didn't want to just play only notes that are in the chord, right? You want to move around a little more. So we want to embellish the melody a little. So when we are playing notes during a chord that aren't chord tones, they often can be categorized as passing tones, which is a note in between two chord tones moving through, neighbor tone, which means you went away from a chord tone and came back, or an approach tone, which means you play a non-chord tone and then you go into a chord tone. So an example of this on the C chord would be, maybe if I start on this note that's in the C, da, 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 and I'm just on the C, and I ended up on this note. Yes, I crossed a string, so crossing strings is something that makes it a little less straightforward, but you can kind of hear that those notes are connected. But I played a non-chord tone, da, 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 on one chord. So that's a passing tone. If I went da, 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 that's a non-chord tone. Da, 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 da. So again, I'm really dancing around the good notes. And I say good notes because non-chord tones can sound good, but they're really the home bass notes. So how do you know which notes that aren't chord tones are ones that you can use? Like I went to this, why did I go to that and not this? What I would recommend doing at first is just finding those by looking at what other chords you've played in the progression, right? So if I you look at notes that exist in all these other chords, well, that's one that's in the key or in your context for sure. That's a note, any note that you've played. So this note comes up in F, the chord that I played F, and so I know that, I can use that when I'm on another chord. Any note you played on any of those other chords you can use. Now this is mostly when you're playing in a key, but it can work. Just use your ear. If you like it, then good. If something sounds wrong, choose a different note. And you can just do that from scratch anyway, of course. So let's write a melody this way that we use embellishments. Okay, so I'm going to start on this note here. I'm going to go to a neighbor tone and come back. Da, da. I'm going to hit a chord tone of the G chord. Da, da, da. I'm going to go up and back. So right now I have da, 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 da. Okay, now I landed on this note. Da. But I'm not playing that in the chord. So if you sing a note, your ear takes you there, find it on the guitar, okay? And it's a chord tone even though I'm not playing it. Okay, I'm playing that note up here. Okay, so I'm here. I'm just gonna walk back up. Da, 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 da. Now I'm here on this note. And now I'm going to jump up to this because I like this thing that we did before. Let's see how the whole thing sounds. Cool. So you can see in the diagram there that I'm kind of showing you, following along, exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking on the guitar while I'm singing that, being very aware of where it fits with the chords. Let's say you did that twice, or you want a new section, but you're going to keep the same chords. Well, now you have this space that you can jump to. You started here, and we moved all around. I think it sounds nice. It has a lot of motion to it. But if you want to have something contrasting, just jump in with a different spot. So we might jump in up here. That spot, which we did earlier. So again, a cool aspect of this is that these built-in melodies, even just purely the chord tones, are really nice backup parts, right? So if we had that melody that we just wrote and then we composed, we said, oh, we want backup singers to sing ooh, or strings to just play chord tones and kind of have it fill out the chord. Well, you can just let's take these top 3 strings, or let's just say two parts, right? So whatever the top string does, you just kind of plug that in and say, okay, you sing this. Or and then someone else sings whatever's on this string. So you're just kind of following the strings. Of course, you can embellish it more like we talked about, but you're just really following those built-in melodies. And then so another singer might go, let's just do one more thing here and look at how this idea is happening in songs everywhere. So another thing to do is if you're working on a song, analyze, find those notes for yourself. We're talking about a pretty simplified version of it here where we're just looking at the notes we're playing for the most part, but try to expand outside of that, knowing that it's always working this way, that these chord tones are getting hit on the chords. So if we take the song Nowhere Man by the Beatles and we just look at where are the good notes and where are the passing notes and all of that. Okay, let's look at the chords that are happening in Nowhere Man. I'm going to do it in G. E is the key that it was originally recorded in, but same song, transposing the key. So we're going to play G, the 1 chord, D, the 5 chord, C, the 4 chord, back to the G. Then we play the 2 chord. Then we play the 4 chord as minor, so C minor. We actually did that in our song too, and I went F, F minor, okay? And then back to G. Okay, so the timing of it is. Let's look now at these chord tones. Okay, here's the melody. That's in the chord. Ba, ba, ba. Sometimes we play G with both of these, so I want you to think of G as, oh, that's a chord tone, and when you lift that off, that's a chord tone. So we have, we'll use those both later and also. Okay, so we have da da ba, ba ba ba. Okay, when we go to the next part of the melody, da da da, just straight up chord tones with a passing tone. Da, passing tone, onto a chord tone. Okay, you can see from the diagram what's happening here, okay? And then on to next chord, da, straight up chord tone. Da, da, chord tone, da, just 2 chord tones there. Da, passing tone, chord tone, chord tone, passing tone, chord tone. So far we have da, 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 da. Okay, then we have chord tone, straight up just chord tones. And then when we go to the 4 chord here, da, 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 that's kind of a unique thing that's happening because the C is minor. So I want you to not worry about that. Because the melody plays the major 7 of that chord for a second. It does end on a chord tone though. Da, ba, da, da. Back to just chord tone. Okay, so even if you're not following the details and the lesson is not supposed to be, hey, play this, it's driving home that idea of of showing how melodies are dancing around between these things. And even if you knew that already, and this is not news, the way we want to work on the guitar, the thing that I'm advocating for here is to really be finding those things, having an understanding of it on the fretboard to give us more control as a guitarist and certainly as a songwriter. So that's it for this lesson. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know is this something you've already been doing? Or is it something that you already think of? Is it new to you? Do you find it helpful? Is it confusing? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you have any similar songwriting tactics that you find helpful on the guitar, I'd love to hear about those too. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another sound guitar lesson real soon, and happy practicing.